Business Math Worksheet Day 13, again, percents in their application, underneath discount markups and markdowns. So we have two different ways that we can mark up or mark down. We can either mark it up based on the selling price or based on the cost. And so when you think about when you're working out problems, we know that we take the cost plus the markup to equal the selling price. If it's based on the selling price is going to be the 100%. That's what my base is. So the percent of the cost plus the percent of the markup would have to add up to 100%. Here it says that my selling price is $70. $70. My cost is $54. So if I wanted to find out the dollar amount of the markup, all I'm going to do is subtract 70 minus 54 in order to figure out what the difference between those two numbers is so that I can figure out how much the markup was. So if I take 70 minus 54, the amount of the markup was $16. $16. Want you to figure out what the percent of the markup was. The percent, we have to keep in mind, is the part divided by the base. The base is the one that has the 100% next to it. So in this case, my part of my markup was 16 divided by my base, which is the 70. So 16 divided by 70, we get 0.22857 and so forth and so on. We want to round our markup to the nearest tenth of a percent. So first of all, we have to change it to a percent, move our decimal 2 places. We have 22.857, so we have to round that one up since there's a 5 behind there. 22.9 is what my percent markup's going to be. So this would be 22.9%. We could figure out this percent up here by subtracting from 100 or taking 54 divided by 70 and fill in the rest of our table, but it doesn't ask us to do that on this problem. So I'm going to use this table quite often. On Alex they might not, but then when you get to different ones where it says based on the cost or based on the selling price, it kind of helps me think about how I'm going to set up my problem. So on number 2 here, it says in the following problem, compute the dollar markup and the percent markup based on the cost this time. So my cost plus my markup has to equal my selling price. My cost is what it's based on. That's where the 100% is going to go. So this time the 100 plus whatever would give us the percent of the selling price if we needed to know that. In this case, tells us our selling price is $90 and that our cost is $66. Again, if I want to figure out what the markup is, I'm going to take the selling price minus the cost because that's going to tell me how much I marked it up by. So if I take 90 and I subtract 66, we marked it up by $24. So the dollar markup is 24. Now it wants us to know the percent markup. The percent markup is based on the cost. So again, the percent is the part over the base. My markup was $24. It's based on the cost. The cost is 64. So 24 over 66, 24 divided by 66 gives me 0.363636. I want to change it to a percent, so I move my decimal 2 places or times by 100. Since there's a 6 behind here, I have to round that up to 4. So 36.4% would be my percent markup. So some will be based on the cost, some will be based on the selling price, so we may have different numbers on the bottom depending on which one of those values it's based on. That's pretty. 36.4% right here. So number 3, it says in the following problem, compute the dollar markup and the percent markup based on the selling price. Round the percent markup to the nearest tenth of a percent. So we know the cost plus the markup has to equal the selling price. We're basing it on the selling price. That's our 100%. Our selling price is $58. Our cost is $42. So in order to find out the amount of the markup, we have to subtract 58 minus 42. So $16. So $16 is the dollar markup, how much we marked it up by. We then need to find the percent markup. So to find our percent, we're going to take our part divided by our base. Our part was $16. Our base, we based it on the selling price, was $58. So 16 divided by 58 gives me 0.27586 ... I got to round that off to the nearest tenth of a percent, so I have to change it to a percent first. I have 27.58, since there's an 8 behind there, I'm going to round it off to 27.6%. So 27.6% is my percent markup. Now 4, 5, and 6 are going to look very similar to what we did, but instead of finding the percent markup, it's going to ask us for other things. So we're still going to use that same kind of table that we used before. It says in the following problem, markup is based on the cost. Compute the dollar markup and the selling price. So in this case, I have my cost plus my markup to equal my selling price. I know it's based on the cost. The 100% has to go here. Tells us the cost is 122. Says the percent markup is 9%. So my base is the 122. I'm going to take the 122 cost times the 9% that I marked it up. 122 times 0.09 means I marked it up by $10.98. So if I marked it up by $10.98, if I'm going to find my selling price, I'm just going to add those two values together. So if I take 122 plus $10.98, my selling price, $132.98. So $132.98 is how much I'm going to sell that item for. So my percent is based on the cost, so 9% of the 122 is the $10.98. So on number 5 here, in the following problem, the markup is based on the cost. Again, we're going to compute the dollar markup and the selling price. So we know our cost plus our markup is equal to our selling price. Our 100%, our base is on the cost. The cost is $74. The markup percent, 59%. So to find the dollar amount of the markup, we're going to say $74 times 59%. So if I take $74 times 59%, $43.66. So my dollar markup, $43.66. If I want to find my selling price then, my selling price, I'm going to take my cost plus my markup. So 74 plus 43.66 means it's going to be $117.66. So my selling price is $117.66. Number 6, same kind of thing. In the following problem, markup is based on the cost again. So my cost plus my markup is equal to my selling price. I'm basing it on the cost. My cost is $71. My markup rate, markup percent, 44%. So 44% of the cost, 0.44 times 71. gives me a markup of $31.24. My selling price then, I'm going to take my $71 plus my $31.24, $102.24. Seven, 8, and 9. It says in the following problem, markup is based on the cost again. Compute the cost in the dollar markup. Round your responses to the nearest cent. So again, we know the cost plus the markup is equal to the selling price. It is based on the cost, so my 100% goes here. I don't know what the cost was, I know what the selling price was. The selling price was $63. I also know what the percent markup was, 49%. So what that means is if I take 100% plus 49%, that 149% is what my percent markup on the cost is. So what I'm saying is 149% of the cost is equal to my selling price, which I know is $63. So in order to find the cost of the item, of means times, I have to end up moving this over and dividing. So I'm going to take my $63 and I'm going to divide it by 1.49, the 149%. 149% based on my cost, of my cost, gives me that selling price of $63. So 63 divided by 1.49 gives me a big long weird decimal, but I'm going to round it off. I get 42.2818. So since I have 281, I'm going to say $42.28. So $42.28 is my cost. Two different ways I could find my selling price. The easiest way is just to go ahead and subtract, right? We know that the difference between these two things would give us our amount. So if I take 63 and I minus 42.28, I get $20.72. Now, if I interpret this, 49% of the cost should be the same number. So if I would take 0.49, 49% times my cost, 42.28, I get the $20.71, so 72 cents. So either way I can get it. I can either take the selling price minus the cost, which is probably the easiest way, or I could take 49% of the cost like we did on the previous table. And either way I end up with that same markup value. So my cost, $42.28. The dollar markup, $20.72. So number 8 says in the following problem, markup is based on the cost again. Compute the cost in the dollar markup. So I know that the cost plus the markup has to equal the selling price. I know it's based on the cost, so my 100% goes over here. The selling price, again, $47. The percent markup is 28%. So I know that the cost plus the markup, the percent down here, has to be 128%. So 128% of times my cost is equal to my selling price, the $47. So again, in order to solve that, I'm going to take my selling price, I'm going to divide it by that 128%. So 47 divided by 1.28 is how I'm going to calculate that cost. 47 divided by 1.28 gives me $36.72 when I round it off. $36.718, so I round it off to 72. 36.718, So $36.72 is what my cost was. I want to find the dollar amount of the markup. Easiest way to find the dollar amount of the markup is just to take the selling price and subtract my cost. So if I take 47 minus 36.72, 47 minus 36.72 gives me $10.28. $10.28. And again, if you just wanted to double check yourself, you could use the percent. 28%, 0.28 of my cost times my 36.72 should give me my markup amount, $10.28, and sure enough it does if I'm checking it out. So we have lots of these problems that sort of look the same. To me, it helps to set up that table to think about, oh, how do I need to set up the problem every time? In the following problem, again, my markup is based on my cost. So my cost plus my markup is equal to my selling price. This is my 100% over here because it's based on my cost. Selling price, $67. The percent markup, 31%. That means the markup here, or the percent over here on my selling price, 131% of my cost. So 131% times the cost has to equal the selling price of $67. So in order to solve this for the cost, I'm going to end up taking 67 and divide it by the 131%, which is 1.31. So 67 divided by 1.31 gives me $51, and I have 1.145, so I have to round that up to 15 cents. So $51.15 is what my cost is going to end up being. My dollar markup then, easiest way to do that is just take the $67 that was your selling price, subtract the $51.15. So 67 minus 51.15 gives me $15.85. So the dollar markup, I marked it up by $15.85. So all of these, 100% of 51.15 is 51.15. 31% of 51.15 is 15.85. 131% of 51.15 is 67. All of those should relate to each other, the cost being the base every time. At least on these ones. So that's the end of worksheet day 13. Again, these are under percents and their applications, and then the subheading, discounts, markup, and markdown. So if you go to your Alex pie chart, look under that section for these problems.